If you're not using your voice because it doesn't come naturally, just start practicing now.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Hello, Game of Her Own listeners. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why speaking up will help the trajectory of your career. Now, I know it may seem like common sense why it would help your career, but so often people don't speak up in meetings. People don't speak up when they have the opportunity to speak up. I hear this from my colleagues, friends, and my clients. I want everyone who is not speaking up at work to start so you can be seen and heard, so you can make a difference, so people can know and see the badass that you are. And you can have that trajectory in your career that we both know is possible. So what do you say? You up for this? And hey, if you're someone who already speaks up at work, stay with me. You can use these strategies to inspire your employees to start speaking up. We all know that organizations do better when employees are speaking up. We all know that you have a high functioning team that's going to help you look better if you have team members, employees who are speaking up. All right, friends, let's do this. Before we get into the reason why speaking up will help your career trajectory, I think it's important to address some of the reasons why we don't speak up. I want to normalize them. They happen to all of us. I'm going to give 4 reasons that I always hear from my clients. So sometimes we don't speak up because we're afraid of saying the wrong thing. First of all, since we don't have all the answers, sometimes we are going to get it wrong. But when we get things wrong and we are opening to listening and learning and discussing it, that's when the growth happens. That's when you get experience that you can take with you as you move forward through your career. Let me read a few lines from the book, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. He's an author, podcaster, and a former monk. He says, "Are we ashamed or grateful when we discover we are wrong about something? Are we defensive or intrigued when we find information that contradicts something we believe? If we aren't open-minded, we deny ourselves opportunities to learn, grow, and change." I love that. I love that paragraph. Actually, I love this whole book, but I love that paragraph. Don't miss an opportunity to learn, to grow because of fear, because you're afraid to say the wrong thing. The second reason why a lot of us don't want to speak up, you let your ego make decisions for you. So often we want to be viewed as having it all together. And when we speak up, people will listen and take notes and give you a standing ovation. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but have you been there where you have pictured like saying something and like the reaction of everybody? Unfortunately, you have no control over how people react to what you say, but you do have control over what you say. Don't let your ego whisper. If you speak up, no, this is your ego speaking. If you speak up, nobody agrees is going to agree with you. You're going to make us look stupid. Play it safe. Wait until you have the perfect contribution to share. Go back and do some more research. Maybe prepare a little bit more. So just don't say anything today. Have you played that game with yourself? Y'all, your ego has no business making decisions for you. In Jay Shetty's book, he actually talks about detaching from your ego. He actually has an entire chapter on your ego. So I'll link to it in the show notes. I highly recommend this book. The third reason, another internal block, may be you're not comfortable. Simply said, you're not comfortable using your voice. Listen, for some of us, it just comes naturally. For others, you have to work on it. It's funny, throughout my career, people have always been surprised by this, but it did not come naturally for me. Apparently, when I was younger, I was really shy. Not apparently, I know this. I was shy. And so when I would go to school and like talk to teachers, like, I don't know what my problem was, but I was shy. And this teacher called my mom and we had to go in. I was so mortified. We had to go in for a meeting. I think I don't know what grade I was in, but it was definitely elementary. And she had a meeting with my mother while I was sitting there about my lack of eye contact when I was engaging with her. I mean, if I could go back in time, I would tell my teacher it was because she didn't make an effort to have a real connection with me. And I didn't really like talking to strangers. But I didn't get to say that. And I honestly didn't realize that at the time. As I got older, I was like, okay. So I had to practice. And I started practicing then because I didn't want to have that uncomfortable, awkward meeting again with my teacher and my mother. I was mortified. So I started to practice. And because at the end of the day, I was going to meet a lot of people who were technically strangers that I didn't have a connection with yet. And so they can impact my education for better or for worse. So I had to figure it out. Young Jahaan started practicing. And I can confidently now say I make the best eye contact. I know it's a weird thing to be proud of. And I also really give a mean handshake, but that last part's because of my dad. My point, if you're not using your voice because it doesn't come naturally, just start practicing now. You will one day be able to look back and point to the time you were like, I'm done with this. I'm going to start using my voice. And you're going to point to a time where you were awkward and your voice cracked and you still kept going. And you're going to use that to help motivate other women who are in sports and are having that same problem you did. So keep pushing through. And if you need a resource, I have a mindset download that I will link to in the show notes to help you just think through it, to help you kind of push through those internal blocks and just try to understand why. But the one thing I want you to do is keep going because we need you. The last reason you might not be speaking up is that you're in a work culture that doesn't value its employees speaking up. Here's the deal. I hate to say this, but it's going to happen in your career from time to time. Now, some of you may be like, I have an amazing career and the culture here is great. I can't imagine that it happens in other places. Unfortunately, it does. And if you never have to experience it, consider yourself so lucky. But there are women and men who every time they speak up, they're met with resistance and you see it happening to your colleagues. So then you don't even want to do it because what's the point? The point is it's practice. Don't use this as an excuse to keep quiet. Don't let this toxic work culture stop you from using that muscle. Speaking up and using your voice is a muscle. And we all know what happens when you don't use a muscle, right? It gets weak and tired. And I kind of feel like I'm talking about myself right now because I cannot get myself to work out. But keep working at it because when you are finally working in a culture that does make you feel empowered to speak up, you will be ready. Okay, Game of Thrones listeners, we talked about some of the reasons why you may not speak up, right? We normalized it. We've all been there. We've all had those moments. Now we're going to talk about 4 reasons why speaking up helps your career trajectory. First, personal brand. I don't know why I'm shimmying my shoulders and none of you can see me doing it. But think of it this way. When you're speaking up, you control what you're known for. Let me give you an example. I had someone who worked for me back in the day when I was working for a baseball team. We won't say which team, but he spoke up all of the time. He always had ideas. Some ideas were brilliant. They were great. Some, not so great. But every idea that he shared it with confidence. And the ones that didn't work, he asked questions and learned why. He had a great discussion about it. It was part of his growth. He was so confident that people in other departments will come to him for fresh new ideas. Let me tell you what this created for him. Actually, it's going to be the word of the episode. Well, the remainder of the episode, opportunities. This person has had a great career, great opportunities because he was not afraid to speak up. He was known as the idea guy. And with that came a lot of word of the episode, opportunities. You don't have to have this perfect altogether title and job description. Don't wait. Start now. I was known as somebody who always advocated for employees. I was known as someone who could motivate and inspire their employees to deliver amazing service. And you better believe I used my voice a lot. Not everyone agreed with my strategy, but it didn't matter. I still was always talking about it, and those who valued what I had to say came to me when it came to inspiring and motivating and managing teams, right? High functioning teams. People would come to me, and you know what that created for me? Opportunity. Second reason, people will start to look at you as a leader. Now, you can't just speak up one meeting and have this brilliant thing and then be like, whew, that was great. I'm done. Everyone is going to think of me as a leader now. Everyone's going to listen to what I have to say, even if I don't speak up again for another month. Doesn't work like that. You have to be consistent. You have to speak up every chance you get. Something pops in your head and you're like, I have to contribute this. Or I have to ask this question because no one else is asking it. Or I have to bring up this concern. Use your voice and do it. Maybe even track it in the beginning. Track the times that you spoke up over the course of a month. Track the times that you spoke up. Track the times that you talked yourself out of it. When you look back, you will be surprised because we have a way of, let's just say it, lying to ourselves. Yeah, I spoke up like almost every meeting I was in, almost every chance I had. But then when you look and you're tracking it, you can't lie to yourself. You see it on paper, just print out a blank calendar and just jot it down. Just do little hashtags, hash marks, whatever they're called. You know what I'm talking about. Try that. One of the reasons people view you as a leader is that you aren't following groupthink. Speaking up and challenging a popular opinion is a trait of a great leader. Speaking up and asking a question when nobody else is doing this, right? No one else wants you can just tell. That's a trait of a good leader. Being vulnerable and using your voice, even if you might get it wrong, even if you're just asking a ton of questions and you're just not even sure what's going on in the room and you're trying to figure it out, it's a trait of a great leader. And you know what comes to great leaders? Did you say opportunities? Because you're right. Word of the episode, opportunities. The third reason why speaking up and using your voice will help your career trajectory is strengthening your influence. Right? When you're speaking up, you're fostering discussion. You have to also listen to what others are saying in response to you. You want to get curious, ask a lot of questions. Let me tell you this. This is a mistake that I made early in my career, maybe sometimes later too, but don't worry about being right. Worry about getting it right. That comes to your ego again. I was always worried about being right. Doesn't matter. You got to worry about getting it right. That's when I had my most success. When you practice curiosity, you earn credibility. And I will tell you this because of your openness, because of your ability to foster discussion with an open mind and no judgment, navigating internal politics will become easier. And you know what else happened? Game of Thrones listeners, if you just said opportunities, yes, you are right. The word of the episode, opportunities. People will want to come to you and share their ideas with you, ask you to collaborate, ask you to lead projects, all because you, my friend, used your voice and spoke up. The fourth reason why speaking up helps your career trajectory is you create trust among your colleagues. They know that you're going to be direct and honest with them. And that's what people need right now. They don't need people who just say yes and spare their feelings. Let me give you an example that I think is funny that has nothing to do with work, but it's super simple. All summer long, I had my hair in braids. And then I switched back to my old hairstyle and I came home. And as I was driving home, I'm already like prepping my husband. I hate my hair. I hate my hair because I don't want him to ask me, do you like your hair? Because that's what he always asks me. He's so kind. And he always asks me when I walk in the door and I didn't like it. And I walked in and he didn't say to me, oh, it looks fine. You look great. He actually said, no, that's not one of your best styles. No. That was it. That's all he said. And you know what? It actually made me feel better because I felt like I wasn't crazy. Two, like I knew he wasn't just giving me just saying something to make me feel better. Oh, it's going to be fine. Nobody wants to hear that. When you're mad or you think something's wrong or you think like it could use a little revision or your project or idea could use a little help, you want people to be honest with you. And in that moment, I know we're talking about hair, but I was so happy that my husband was honest with me. I'm not gonna lie, the next day, like put a little makeup on and kind of like did my hair a little bit. And we're both like, oh, it looks a little bit better. It's getting there. I think we were both like just in shock because I had braids all summer, which we both loved. And I just wasn't feeling the old style. I wanted to go back to what the new thing I tried. Anyway, I'm getting off task talking about my hair. When your colleagues trust you, guess what follows? If you use an opportunity, you are correct. They will see you as someone who will speak up, use your voice, and not be afraid to shake things up a little bit. And because you're working on your brand, they know what you stand for. If you need a little bit of help, you can check out, I'll link to it in the show notes. I have a blog post, Being Confident and Speaking in a Professional Way. So this will help you as well. So I link to it in the show notes so you'll understand. I get it, right? We're high performing women and being confident and speaking up should be easy. So I have some resources to help you get there. All right, Game of Our Own listeners, as always, I am so grateful that you are here. Thank you for listening and coming back week after week. And I love hearing from you. I love hearing your stories. I love if you want to email me, please email me. If you want to send me a DM, if that is your thing on Instagram or LinkedIn, I will link to all of those ways to get in touch with me in the show notes. So just scroll down and look. That's what show notes are. I didn't know what show notes were until I started listening to business podcasts. And I was like, what's a show note? So I thought I'd tell you. Thank you guys for being here. And if you want to talk more about this, we talked about, reasons that speaking up will help the trajectory of your career. But I understand that it's not always easy. And you may leave here feeling pumped up, ready to go, use your voice every single day. But then you might need a little help along the way. And that's why I'm here as well. So if you ever want to talk to me about how I can support you with my coaching services, let's talk about it. I will link to that in the show notes as well. And we can see if it's the right fit for you, if that's something you want to do. All right, friends, until next time, thank you again for being here.